From 1995 up until 2019, Warped Tour was the highlight of summer for so many people. During its existence, it became one of the largest travelling festivals and the longest running tour festival in the United States, as well as expanding outside of this territory and putting on festivals across Europe, Japan and Australia. For being one of the biggest festivals of all time, having these previously mentioned accolades, and so many people seeing old sets up on YouTube, watching their favourite bands performing from this iconic tour, let's take a look at why it's no longer around and figure out what the fuck happened to Warped Tour. So let's start at the inception of Warped Tour. Created by Kevin Lyman, the founder of event production company 4Finny Incorporated, now known as the Kevin Lyman Group Agency, and Ray Woodbury, president of RK Diversified Entertainment, a company that provides production services for live events. The debut run of the festival ran from the 4th of August 1995, kicking it off in Salt Lake City, Utah, and going until 4th September in Irvine, California. This travelling approach meant that every day, the festival area would be set up differently, with set times for the artists determined on the morning of each date. The launched year of Warped Tour featured bands such as Quicksand, No Doubt, and No Use for a Name. A hub for alternative music and skateboarding culture to meld together, the audience quickly grew. The successful first run managed to catch the attention of Vans, the skateboarding and clothing manufacturer, who in 1996 on the second year joined on board as sponsors, remaining as their main sponsor from that moment onwards, with the festival even being known as the Vans Warped Tour. Becoming more than just a festival and live music, it became a brand that would continue to grow. The sophomore year of Warped Tour in 1996 saw the likes of a young Blink-182, Deftones and Limp Bizkit featured, with these bands reoccurring on future festival runs in subsequent years. Year 3 saw even more of an expansion. A third stage was introduced during the US run of the festival, and a run of dates in Europe taking place in Germany, Austria, France, Spain, England, Belgium and the Netherlands, with Warped Tour teaming up with European festivals such as Bazaar, Reading, Pukkelpop and Lowlands in order for this more global outreach to make its way to the masses outside of the US. The 1998 and 1999 editions of Warped Tour took it further by opening up the run of dates in Australia, with these years featuring artists such as Hatebreed, Incubus, the Black Eyed Peas, Eminem and Jimmy Eat World, showing off the variety of music they would bring on the tour. The festival continued with this theme right into the early 2000s, but during this time, the musical landscape began to change, and so did the theme of the bands at Warped Tour. Previous bookings where punk rock bands would dominate the bill, such as NoFX, Simple Plan and Sum 41, began to be taken over by the wave of metalcore that surged with the bands like Avenged Sevenfold, Atreyu and Underoath, starting to make more frequent appearances year after year. The 2010s would see the pop-punk wave become prominent at Warped, with bands such as All Time Low, The Story So Far and 4 Year Strong leading the charge early on. The presence of the older bands that helped build the festival continued to be felt, with these new bands appearing regularly and becoming staples in their own right, but we'll take a closer look at those headliners shortly. Fast forwarding through time slightly from 2000 to 2011, Warped Tour would only be active in the US and Canada, remaining there and building its way from initially having 2 stages, back at its inception, to having multiple stages in those years after, with hundreds of artists playing each day and building itself to become more than a festival. Warped Tour was becoming a brand. It would have all kinds of attractions when it came to town. Ingrained as part of skateboarding culture, Warped Tour would have half-pipes and ramps for skaters. There would be rows of merchandise tents, record labels and charities following along for the tour, with it becoming something more than just the music people came for. Bands would then meet their fans at these merchandise tents, with a sense of community and camaraderie growing between artists and the people coming to see them perform. 2012 would see the long-awaited return of Warped Tour heading out of North America once more, with Warped Tour UK taking place inside of Alexandra Palace in London, in conjunction with promoters Kilimanjaro Live, the same people who had put on many of the festivals, including Sonosphere. The growth that Warped Tour had reached in the years away from these areas allowed it for great demand once more, with the success in Europe helping 2013's edition of Warped make many more appearances. It would touch ground in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, the Netherlands and England, as well as making a triumphant return back to Australia. 2015 to 2016 Warped Tours would see stage numbers reduced from 9 to 7, slightly scaling back on the size of the festival. November 2017 would see the news that the following year would be the final full run of Warped Tour. It would kick off in Japan and then finish back off in North America. Ahead of this final touring run, Kevin Lyman would look back at the years the festival took place, saying he was grateful to have worked with more than 1,700 bands over 23 summers. A further announcement would take place for a special 25th anniversary 5-date run in 2019. The 25th anniversary would be a who's who of bands who have appeared multiple times over the years, truly making it a celebration of the history of Warped Tour and its significance for the music scene it helped promote. After this run of 5 dates, Warped Tour was no more. Many bands would become frequent features of Warped Tour, often being associated so closely with the festival. Over the 25 years, 75 bands played 5 or more times over the course of its run, and there were 8 bands that played the festival so many times they made it into the double digits. Sum 41, Silverstein, Pennywise and Motion City Soundtrack all appeared 10 times. Real Big Fish and Anti-Flag played 11 times. Simple Plan took to the stage 13 times, and Less Than Jake made 15 appearances on the lineup, which is staggering. This rotation of regular bands would both help and harm Warped Tour. For those bands, it's great to have that repeat booking, being able to play a run of dates to as many people as possible and be out on the road, but it means that having the same artists playing time and time again could end up putting some people off going if they've already seen them before. Sometimes it helps having a fresher lineup, as the repeatability can make it seem stale, and so although Warped Tour was able to continually bring new bands out each year, some of the names on top of the bill would seem like the same poster is being used year after year. Warped Tour would always cater to as many people as it could, but its main demographic and attendees would be the audience of 15 to 25 years old. Despite the fact that repeat bands would always show up, it didn't appear to change this target audience making the journey in droves year upon year. Ticket prices were always as low as they could be, often being around the $50 price tag, with over 500,000 attendees on average attending the festival over the course of each summer. With this lower age audience being prominent in the festival year upon year, in 2013 it was announced that any parents of an under 18 attendee would gain entry to the festival for free, with the festival already providing a reverse daycare option for these parents. This being an adults only tent where the under 18s can drop off their parents and go and enjoy the rest of the festival. While this was able to provide a great chance for young people to get the chance to be themselves, sometimes for the very first time amongst others who feel the same way, it also allowed for parents to maybe feel more safe being nearby at the festival, and there are reasons as to why this seems to be put in place. During the course of its history, there have been various controversies that have surrounded Warped Tour, which would create a negative culture and perception for many people on what it was really like. We're going to talk about some of the controversies here, so here is a trigger warning for people that might find some of this upsetting. In 2015, acoustic musician Jake McElfresh, known as Front Porch Step, faced numerous allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct, with underage teenage girls stating inappropriate messages and photos were sent between them and the musician. This unacceptable behaviour led to the public calling for him to be dropped from his label and the 2015 Warped Tour lineup, and to be held accountable for his actions. Although he was dropped from the Warped Tour initially, he was invited to play during one of the dates in Tennessee, with Kevin Lyman saying it was part of his rehabilitation, and that if he was a legitimate danger to anyone, he simply wouldn't be here. These comments led to a large outcry, with bands on that lineup of Warped Tour publicly protesting his appearance, with Dan Soupy Campbell from the Wonder Years even cancelling his own performance entirely to boycott McElfresh's involvement in the tour. McElfresh would go on to say during his set that he knew who he was and that "I am very fucking proud of that," when one of the concert goers would challenge him on the multiple allegations. For Warped Tour to allow this individual to even take part for one day was enough for many people to be put off from thinking about attending again. Ronnie Radke, vocalist of the band Falling in Reverse, was arrested in 2012 for domestic violence and had accusations of sexual abuse in 2015. He also previously had a 5-year stint in prison for his involvement in the death of an 18-year-old in 2006. He would go on to participate in Warped Tours in the years 2014, 2016 and 2017. Lost Prophets frontman Ian Watkins was accused of paedophilia as early as 2008, with these accusations being ignored for years, allowing the band to partake in Warped Tour in 2012. In 2013, he pled guilty after being arrested, with these accusations having a large amount of evidence into the disturbing and disgusting behaviour which he participated in. Blood on the Dance Floor vocalist Darby Vanity was arrested in 2009 for sexual assault and had multiple accusations of underage sexual misconduct in 2010, but was still invited to be able to play on Warped Tour in both 2011 and 2012. These are only a few of the instances where predatory and unsafe individuals were invited on Warped Tour after they had been exposed for being who they are, allowing for the thousands of young and vulnerable attendees to be put at risk of being in contact with these people. Although the actions of these individuals is not the responsibility of Warped Tour or any organisation similar, Warped is there to provide a safe space for people to attend and enjoy themselves, and including these people on the lineups does not allow for this to be the case. Because Warped allowed these people to be on the lineup, a culture began to be created for what people perceive Warped Tour to be like, and it became associated as a place where sexual assault, harassment and misogyny was known to be a part of the festival year after year. Kevin Lyman made some comments about these controversies in various interviews over the years, but many of the responses seem to dismiss any responsibility of protecting attendees from misconduct and defending abusers from bans, mentioning there has to be proof without a shadow of a doubt that accusations happened, not giving any credit to the multiple people who have come forward and bravely tell their story about some of the abuse that took place. Even individuals who had spent time in prison and officially been charged with their misconduct would still be able to find a place on Warped Tour years later. The customer safety should be one of the most important things at all times, and on many occasions that did not seem to be even on the radar. There were multiple reasons people speculated about the end of Warped Tour being active. However, in 2019, prior to the 3-day end of celebrations, Kevin Lyman spoke to Kerrang about the supposed real reason it all finished. He said, "I think we've lost a sense of community. It took a community to make Warped Tour go. Some of that was self-inflicted. I thought you addressed the fans that complain on Twitter. I was addressing everyone and tried to keep that conversation going, but you realise you can't really negotiate, debate or educate on social media." Additionally, he said that in the early days of the festival existing, you couldn't judge a band until you met them in the parking lot. You'd meet these people and they were musicians too. Then I started watching this community tear itself apart from within. People would come up to me on Warped Tour and say, "Well, I don't want to be on Warped Tour because Attila are on Warped Tour. We're not here to judge each other's music. The fans will judge each other's music." He went on to mention sending offers to bands each year, with these offers being turned down because they didn't want to become associated with some of the acts that would repeatedly appear on the lineup, causing much frustration behind the scenes. In November 2019, less than 6 months since the supposed last iteration of Warped Tour took place, the internet started to get excited about the rumours that it would already be coming back, with Chris Fronzak, frontman for the band Attila, being the one to revive it. He addressed these rumours in October 2020 on the No Jumper podcast, confirming that he was looking into it as an option, and that he'd already had a meeting with founder Kevin Lyman as to how to purchase the festival to bring it back. Chris also mentioned there were additional legal issues involved, and that it couldn't come back for at least 3 years or so, putting a timeline of Warped Tour relaunch happening at the earliest in 2023. He continues by stating, "I have a really good idea for how to make it sustainable and make it bigger than it's ever been," as well as adding, "I do want to do this because Warped Tour was important for me growing up, and I know it's important for our current generation and in future generations, and I'm very much a businessman and I want to be the one who takes on Warped Tour." He also delved into his friendship with Kevin Lyman, mentioning how Kevin approached him back on the 2017 Warped Tour, asking if he wanted to buy the tour back then. So someone who has this much passion for the tour festival does seem to make it like there could be potential for it to return in the future, but only time will actually tell if that comes into fruition. Is there a space for Warped Tour to make a return? I think under the right circumstances, it could happen. Past controversies being addressed and a fresh approach with a new direction behind it could help a comeback. Warped Tour became a place so many people would want to visit every year. Bands would dream of playing it, and its success will allow it to expand it into many countries across the world. Warped Tour became more than just a music festival, it became a brand and a culture. That's something that not many other festivals have the ability to do. This American system of a travelling festival is very much different to the European approach, where it has a base of operations for multiple days. So from the perspective of me here in the UK, there was always something different about the idea of one day going to America to go to see a day or two of Warped Tour. Whether that has the possibility of happening though, will only be seen in time. What do you think? Could you see a return for Warped Tour? Did you go to any of the years it was active, and what are your favourite memories? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for all things alternative metal. We've come back from our own festival season, so be sure to go and check out our vlogs from Takedown, Slam Dunk, Download and 2000 Trees, plus many other great videos. A big shout out to Joni for the great edit on this video. Please check out more of our work as shown on screen and via the links in the description.